Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 4DMethod 4D user group. Today is July 3rd. Please excuse our 1 or 2 minute late start. I guess the fireworks were starting early in this Hangout because sometimes it's a little bit tricky getting everything to work. But on our agenda today, we'll have a little bit, as usual, about 4DMethod. We'll get to 4D news from Jim Sobczak in California. We'll have the 4D iNug e-digest from our own Ed Hammond. And we'll have a segment called What the Blog to talk about what's been going on with the 4D blog. There's always a lot of action on there. And then we'll get right to our special topic, lights, camera, actions with 4D for iOS. Will Taylor from 4D will be presenting that to us today. So it'll be very exciting to see what's going on. A lot of new development with 4D for iOS. Seems like every week new features are getting rolled out. And we'll have questions and answers, hopefully answers, and talk about our next meeting on September 4th. So my name is Brent Raymond. I organize the 4DMethod 4D user group. Our website is 4dmethod.com. Reach out to us at 4dmethod@gmail.com with any ideas, compliments, insults, criticisms, gifts, whatever. Be happy to interact. What we're trying to do here is bring together a scattered community of developers and users of 4D and 4D products, 4D applications. All of the meetings are streamed via YouTube Live or whatever capability we're left with when all of this gets taken away. But it allows for people to participate from anywhere in the world. All the meetings are recorded and all the presentations are recorded to be viewed again and shared with others. We're up to something like 40 now, is that right? I don't know. There's a lot of presentations out there, a wealth of material. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to provide fresh new content and exposure for users and developers everywhere of 4D-based applications. So I'm just going to kick it over to Jim. I think Donna's out ill, unfortunately.
Has it started yet and I can't hear, or are we waiting for something?
It started and started. Yeah. I'm going to kick it over to Jim for some news from 4D. So thanks, Jim, for joining us, and hopefully we can hear you.
Yes. Hi, Brent. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay. Everybody else, hopefully. And if you can't, then just put something in the chat there.
Yep.
It looks like everyone can hear. So welcome, everyone, from California and from the offices of 4D. We're here in San Jose with Will Taylor and the newest member of our sales team, Michael Tilton.
Hi, everybody.
So thanks, Brent and Ed, for organizing these meetings and lining up presenters. You make it look easy, and I know it's not easy, so we really appreciate your time and the effort you put into this. It's a really big service that you're doing to the 4D community. Like everyone in this meeting, and for those who are going to watch the video later, we're looking forward to Will's presentation of 4D for iOS. So we are hoping it will spark a lot of interest. I'm sure it will. And then we will follow up with questions and comments when we're done with that. So a few things in 4D land. So World Tour 2019, I'm going to start with that. Again, thank you for all of those who did attend any of the 6 events here in the US. We will be sending a global thank you to you and all of the attendees very soon. You'll be getting that. The World Tour is still ongoing. It seems like it's been going on for several months, and it has. We will be at 44 cities when all is said and done. We have already surpassed 1,000 attendees worldwide, which is pretty incredible. So we will easily meet and exceed the numbers for World Tour 2017. And last week we had a big event in Paris with over 100 attendees. So that was the biggest World Tour event of all so far, and on one of the hottest days ever in in France. So that was pretty impressive that all those people turned out. And if you still didn't get a chance to go, Casablanca, Morocco, and Montreal are still on the schedule for September. So if you like a family vacation and a world tour in Casablanca, I mean, what could be better than that, right? Here in the U.S., we're still following up on leads with our 4D with the world tour attendees. There was so much interest in deep code analysis, and in particular, and in CAS, or quality automation assurance services. It sounds good. That we are still following up on all those customers. The 64-bit readiness survey prompted a lot of response, and thank you for those who did fill out the survey. More to come on this globally. So that's it for the world tour. V17R5, that I know Brent has some slides about that later. Hopefully you're all following the blog.4d.com, and reading about many of the 30 new features that are 30 plus new features that will be coming in V17R5. The major ones are presented in depth on blog.4d.com, and we'll be seeing one of them today, of course, and that is 4D for iOS. As you know, it'll be our first release of 4D that will be 64-bit only. We have many more advances in ORDA, encryption, source control. So from my point of view, it's the biggest R release ever that in the history of 4D. So we're super excited about this one. And hopefully you're all following that on the blog, and R5 will be in your hands soon. Okay, so the summit, 4D Summit 2020, is we've already formed our summit team, of course. We have to start these early. We're already meeting weekly. We do have the venue and dates established, but we won't be announcing those today, but we'll be announcing those very soon. Boom. And you'll be able to see all of the features that will be in these R releases that are in the pipeline now, and of course in 4D V18, which will be released sometime prior to the summit. We're super excited about this summit. If you haven't been to one and you have a chance to go, this will be the one you want to attend. So, and finally, we are organizing trainings in San Jose. There'll be a set of trainings in October. It'll be one will be a 3-day essentials training that will be taught by Angelo Caraprisi in October in San Jose, 3 days. So if you have someone in your company, or you know a 4D person who needs to be trained, or someone in a different part of your group completely who wants to learn 4D, the 3-day essential training is the one to go to. There'll also be a 2-day training on 4D and the web. So that will also be taught by Angelo. Of course, that will be a more advanced training. So both of these sessions will be limited in the number of people that we can handle, because they're one-on-one training, and we can't have a huge room because Angelo moves around quickly to everyone to make sure they're following the training. So when you hear about these, and you will be hearing about these soon, be sure to book early. I can tell you now we're already about half full, and we haven't even announced them yet. So it'll be October in San Jose. So that's it for me. A lot going on in 4D land here. I want to wish you all a happy 4th of July, safe and restful holiday weekend, and we'll be talking to you soon. Thank you, Brent.
Okay.
Back to you.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, I guess I mentioned the fireworks, but didn't mention 4th of July. Obviously, that's tomorrow for the United States Independence Day celebrations, and for all of us from the U.S. anyways, happy 4th. Have a beer and a hot dog for me, please. and for our Canadian friends, happy Canada Day too. That was I think that was already passed, but yeah. So the road show continues. Unfortunately, my invitation to Casablanca got lost in the mail. Wah. But the road show again was great, and wow, that's a huge attendance there, over 100 in France for that. Road show is great, but what's even better is the 4D Summit. So I can't wait to hear where that's going to be, and the details for that. So So yeah, let's see. Our next segment here is where we talk about some of the discussion that's been happening in the community. Ed Hammond will talk about some of the topics that some of the hot topics online, and some of the tips that have been shared. Wow. If we could just excise our demons from this hangout, we would be really nice. So yeah, so I'm going to kick it over to you, Ed. Thanks for putting this together.
Thanks, Brent. I hope that echo wasn't me because my mic was muted. As always, we'll be discussing the hot topics on the iNug. If you're not familiar with the iNug, you should subscribe. I'm a digest subscriber, so I just get a summary of messages every day or so. The topics of conversation, there's a wide breadth of topics that cover all kinds of 4D tech issues, and sometimes not so technical. You want to take advantage of all the wealth of 4D experience that's out there. We've got developers that have probably close to 40 years experience. So if you're having a problem, chances are someone else has seen it. Maybe they can help you out. You can see the link there. Check out 4DMethod e-digest. I provide links to all the topics that I found interesting there. And the topics we discussed today will be posted later on this afternoon. To register for the iNug, there's a link there at list.4d.com/mailman/listinfo. So you can get your registrations there. So without further ado, some of the things I found interesting since our last discussion was a continuing topic, more discussion on printing structures. Alexander Heinz gave a link to a 4D application that he's written. Unfortunately, it is limited to V17, at least R5, and that will provide a structure diagram from an XML structure export file. Check it out if you're looking to print your structure. I know we've got a rather large diagram of our physical structure on a wall above my desk at the Art Institute. So if you need something like that, check out the printing structures link. Moving on, I see John Boffman is listening in today, which is great because he was curious about managing 4D server as a service, navigating the expectations and pitfalls of running a 4D server as a service on Windows servers, interactive services to allow interaction with the administration window, and error handling. Tim Nevels, John DeSoy, Tom Benedict, and Lutz Upperline, and Douglas Van Roder had very useful information for him on that thread. So if you're moving to Windows or want to run 4D server as a Windows service, check out that thread. Peter Jacobson posted a web area fail on accessing secure area. Some guy named Ed Hammond pointed out that there are some major differences in web area behavior between 4D versions and embedded rendering versus the system rendering. So I can tell you from experience, sometimes you have to find the right combination of things to help you out. Turned out Peter moved to a more recent version of 4D, and that solved some of his issues. And most of that was getting a secure connection to his system through his SSO. John Boffman also was looking for a replacement for Zip Center. Apparently Zip Center is a no-go on 64-bit, but worked fine on 32. So if you're moving to 64, like everyone should be, you might have a problem with Zip Center. So that involves zip code and address lookup options. The thread discussed, actually a couple of threads all gathered around zip code. One was zip code API sites follow-up and anyone using zip code API. There are a variety of options listed in that thread. As far as HTTP requests, there was a hint on if you return, if the service returns JSON, you can put it directly into a 4D object, which is very helpful. And we've used that ourselves at the Art Institute. Jeremy French had a couple of threads continuing on Apple notarizing. Apple notarizing, where is 4D documentation on how to? And notarized custom workflow, submit your software. Jeremy had a couple of links to Apple developer documentation on that and how to get your 4D built client server apps, built single user apps notarized so that they can pass Apple's new security restrictions. Narinder Chandi, welcome back, Narinder. Apparently he's been away from 4D for a while, and he had several threads, but one of them was developing using selector methods.
For some reason, mine isn't.
Legacy 4D techniques versus order and form variables, and the dialogue usage. Kirk Brooks and Douglas Van Roder were helpful in making lengthy responses to Narinder on that thread, and what the major changes were from the legacy 4D techniques and Orda. And finally, John Boffman was busy rotating pictures and how to perform rotate a picture with native 4D code. That thread included some code examples. Cannon Smith, Keisuke Miyako, and Keith Kalata participated on that. And if you need to rotate pictures, you should check out that thread. That does it for my interesting topics on iNug this month. And I will turn it back over to you, Brent.
Thanks, Ed. Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion about notarizing the apps, and if you're deploying your applications or using applications on Mac OSs, you know, it's going to become in the next OS, I believe. You're not going to be able to run a lot of apps unless they are code signed and notarized and approved by Apple. And you know, I don't think it involves actually having it downloadable from the store, but you definitely will have to consider signing your applications, notarizing your applications so that they're still usable. So a lot of good discussion on that on the iNug, as well as on the knowledge base for how to tackle those issues, and a lot of other interesting issues as well, including the how we're all going to have to move to 64-bit, as Jim mentioned. The next major version of 4D will be 64-bit only. So that might fix a few problems for people who are having to switch to 64-bit because things have stopped working otherwise. But anyways, thanks again, Ed, and we'll move on to our next section, where instead of looking at the iNug, we look at the 4D blog for what's been going on. The first blog article that I wanted to talk about, and I'm certain I'm not saying this right, but Ajui tip, or it doesn't matter how it's pronounced, but it's basically a component that you can add to your, I believe, V17 only database, and has some very, you can start adding these little tooltips. They don't have to look like the standard yellow tooltip that you see here on the screen. They can look, you can be very creative with how you define these tooltips and add them to your application for not only just teaching people how to, how to use a certain area of the application, but also creatively using them for data entry. So that was the first blog article, I believe, that the 4D blog has had, which wasn't written by 4D. 4D has put out requests for people from the community to write articles. I myself will be writing an article about 4DMethod and whatnot, what we do here in the user group. And if you have something you'd like to share on the 4D blog, you can reach out to them and perhaps throw an article up on the blog yourself. So that's very exciting, new development with the blog. Right, so another article, moving on here, is about using Orda to boost performance in client-server mode. We talked a little bit in the last meeting about the new context that they're putting into R5 for trying to effectively constrain how much data gets passed over the network, helping to define the context and what fields need that you're concerned with in the code that you're running. So that you're not, say, pulling all 400 fields across the network when you don't need to. You can just say, well, I only need these 5, and I'll just pass that context to the next call. There's another article about adding actions to your 4D for iOS apps, interestingly called Lights, Camera, Action, but without an exclamation point. So it's clearly not the same thing as what we'll be sharing with us later. but yeah, the actions is a huge new development for 4D for iOS. It allows for you to expose some of the more complex logic in your application to iOS in a very easily accessed manner. And we'll be seeing more about that in a little bit. Another article about Orda member methods to get the structure information, such as table information, what the table entities look like. You can see a couple of the commands in the lower right-hand part of the slide here, along with new 4D commands to work with encrypted data. You can, this is specific to R5, actively encrypt your data file, generate new encryption keys, register keys, everything having to do with working with keys. And between both of those, as Jim said, the encryption capabilities in R5 in the coming version 18 are just a huge new boost in capabilities for 4D in this world. I think we'll all be able to really take advantage of, and without largely any added logic to your application, encrypting any sensitive information and only unencrypting it upon access. So that's a huge addition to the 4D capability set. And then also there was an article about N-to-1 relations within 4D for iOS. Again, that's just it goes into the parade of features that they're putting out for 4D for iOS, and it definitely seems like new things every R version, and every day on the blog we hear about new development that they're putting into 4D for iOS. So it's definitely an active development, and we'll see a lot more about how 4D for iOS works here in a moment. We'll be joining us today. We have Will Taylor. He'll be presenting on Lights, Camera, Actions with exclamation points with 4D for iOS. This Eagle Scout is joining us from California. Will is a technical account manager and professional services lead in the US. He's been with 4D for a very busy few years.
Hello?
Hi, Will.
Can you guys hear me? I think I'm having a problem. I'm having some technical difficulties.
Oh, okay, I can hear you.
This guy. Internal speakers. Oh, you can hear me?
Yes.
All right. Well,
I'm just.
let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I should just. I've restarted a couple times. So
Can you hear me?
let me just
No, apparently
go deaf.
I can't go in because it's full.
not.
You can't go in because it's full.
Yeah.
Okay. You can pop on the YouTube channel. So hi. So yeah, my name is. Let me share my screen. Sorry about that,
Tim,
guys.
can you hear Will?
It's a bit weird today.
No, but I can restart.
Can you see my
I
screen?
fixed it last time. Maybe it'll fix it this time.
Just say yes
Okay.
or no.
Okay,
Okay, cool. So hi, so everybody, my name is William Taylor, and I'm here to talk about 40 for iOS and what's been happening since we last met at the World Tour. So
I can't get in.
this is a demo that I call Lights, Camera, Actions. So
Where should I go? Where's the hang?
you can hear me okay? Thanks, Ad. I'm going deaf.
He was giving you an intro.
Oh, he was?
Yeah, Brent.
Oh, thanks, Brent. Well, thank you very much, Brent, for that intro. Sorry, I really can't hear anything. So, so last time we met, hey guys, can you just? Last time we met at the World Tour, we talked about and we met, and I gave a bunch of demos about 40 for iOS, what's been happening with 40 for iOS, and also I gave a bunch of and every demo I talked about was read only with only a quick foray into writing or updating or actions. So right now, today I'm going to talk a little bit about what's been going on since then. So yeah, I guess let me introduce myself. My name is William Taylor. I'm the technical account manager at 4D.com. Sorry for the confusion this morning. I'm just, it's a bit weird to be talking to myself, but let's keep on going. Hope you can all hear me.
I can.
So, and if you all remember, this was the slide that we presented at the World Tour. So let me start off by saying, what is 40 for iOS? 40 for iOS is a component that's within 4D that is written in 4D that allows you to create a native Swift application or native iOS application which means in Swift, and it does the translation for you so it provides you a method by which you can can everybody hear me? I'm gonna look over here. It provides a method by which you can, hey, can someone give me earbuds? Some earbuds. It provides a method by which you can click, point and play, plug. You can point and click, and it's a WYSIWYG editor for an iOS application. So you saw a bunch of read-only applications. So I'm going to show. So right now I'm going to show you a demo of here. I'll get these earbuds now. Sorry about that. It's pretty rinky-dink, guys. Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
No?
Yes.
Does it sound better?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay, cool. So as you can see, it's demo time. So I guess hopefully I'll be able to answer questions after this. But let's do the following. So this is the demo. So what I'm going to do is I have this task demo database that we have, and I'm going to open it up with 4D. They can hear me okay? Thanks, guys. Oh, yeah, you can turn your sound on, and then you can just sign it to me. Thank you, Jim. See, we work as a team here at 4D. Oh, this is ridiculous. This is funny. So luckily my daughter's here today to see all this. So what we have on so this is a demo that I grabbed from the tutorials website from 40 for iOS that's being managed by the team in France. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go over what the documentation says about this, and then how we can extend it in a nice way. And also, this is something that hasn't been done and hasn't been seen by other people, so you guys are really lucky to have seen it for me. I didn't know how to do it before I started doing it, but I really wanted to know how to do it. I wanted to share with you today. So what we have here is the tasks demo database, which Ad prepared for you guys for the world tour in, thanks Tim, for the world tour in 2015 or 2017, my first one. So what we have here is a bunch of tasks, because we can see we have 4DMethod meeting. The work is, it's not really started yet. I haven't really started getting to work yet, so I'm gonna let that be 0 still. And we have the tasks, the emails, which is the person who owns the task. And then we got some description on it, some descriptions on it. So this is a really good way. This is a really good This is a really good demo application. It looks nice, and also it can easily be extended into an iPhone. You'd like to know what you have to do that day on your phone, because you generally don't just sit around with a client server in your car. I hope you don't, at least. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop open the 4D for iOS mobile project that was made, that can be downloaded from the website. This is it. So I'm popping up 4D for iOS. I hope that you're all very familiar with this screen. If you're not, the tutorial is a great place to start, and I'll give you a link later on. So we have the general tab. Just a real quick overview. We have the general tab. We have the structure with all of the tables that are exposed. The data file, we're going to go over this. We're going to pop into this a little bit later. We've got these things called actions here that I didn't really go over. And these actions have names, icons, short labels, long labels, the table from which they come, and their scope. Their scope can either be current entity or table. So you see here. So what that means is either you're going to be updating the whole table or the current entity that's selected. See, we have a couple. So we have postpone all and all in progress, or setting all in progress. That'll be, I'll revisit that a little bit later to show you how that can create some confusion, and maybe show you a way to get around and to use that in a little bit better way. Labels and icons, okay, these are just the labels and icons. That's great. There's actually a lot of information here, and there's some formats that can be looked into. This uses a lot of formats, but I won't be going into that today. If you want to know more about that, I would dig in the tutorial. The forms, and then the publishing. So this is the only change that I've made in the demo that I'm giving you right now from what's been downloaded from the website. So, and that says I clicked the login required. The login required is the only thing that I've done. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to build it up. I'm going to build up the 4D for iOS application. So all changes will be lost. So yeah, what we see here is just pretty much what can be downloaded right now from the developer.4d.com website. And I'll show you guys a little bit later. So this takes about 20 seconds on my computer, so bear with me, and I'm only going to build twice. Not like in the World Tour, where I did it every second, I felt like. Maybe it was just me. And what's even better about this is that since I can't hear you, you can't ask me questions, so we're just going to enjoy the silence, guys. Take some deep breaths. Get that vagus nerve. Get that. Savor the moment. Thank you, Ed. So this pops open. What this does is when I build it up, as you all remember, it pops open the iPhone simulator. I have my iPhone. This is actually my iPhone, so I like to look at it more than I actually need to. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my email. And my email, so what this does, okay, so the login screen required adds this template at the beginning. Okay. And when I click login, it logs in. Great. So what I have here is a really nice looking application that looks like this. We can update. We can search the name of the we can search the name. We can postpone all or put all in progress. You saw that down there before. So that's been added there automatically using in Xcode. However the team does their magic. It's really complicated and it's beyond me. We also have the sliding thing. So we can say we're done with this. We're going to postpone this. I'm not done yet. Don't worry. You still have me for a little bit. We can we can click more, and this has my daughter says that a lot now. Always asking for more Cheerios. So I'm going to set this to 10% now. And what I've done is I've sent this to 10%. And what that does is it creates an action, and it sends the action, and it'll update the 4DMethod meeting here. So as you can see here, it's now in progress and 10%, which is awesome. And maybe so since this actually locks the record, I'm going to pop out of here. Okay, this application locks the record, and I'm going to click postpone all just to see how that goes. And I can pop it back open. And you see they're all going to be postponed now. So as you can see, so we can postpone, you can add, you can start all, and we click in here. So we go into the details method. We go into the details form. And this details form is a bespoke template design that can be downloaded from the blog, or from the tutorials. And we can click through, and we can see the various things. And then we have the various information. So we see that the priority is high for the 4DMethod meeting. Yeah, better get on that. It's postponed. I don't think it's postponed. I'm gonna put this into progress. Okay. And I'm gonna change it up to 20% again. Cool. So we're getting there. We're getting there, guys. Don't worry. So that's kind of where that's how the actions have been placed. And when you dig into that, and when you download the demo application, which I invite you all to do, and play with it with your 17R5 version or above, have a look to see how it works. It's quite interesting, and it requires this requires no Xcoding programming. This is only 4D and SVG so far. And actually, I will not even open Xcode in this demo today. So that's good news for me and for you. So that's that. And so yeah, we've seen the actions. We've seen the actions in 40 for iOS itself. Okay, we see these actions here. So either on the current entity or on the table. But we also have, so these actions need to be defined somewhere. So there are actually, I wanted to introduce two new database methods to you. If you haven't played around 40 for iOS, this may come as a surprise, but there are two new database methods. And I'm going to pop open my I'm going to pop in my method explorer. Oh shoot, that's the wrong one. I'm sorry about that, guys. I'm going to pop open my database method explorer, and you're going to see here there are two new methods here. There's the database authentication and mobile app authentication. So just a little bit, just for those of you that haven't seen these, I'm going to go in. I'm going to make modifications to these in a little bit, but just to know what I'm talking about. So on mobile app authentication. So this method gets called when the mobile app is authenticated. This is the standard, with the exception of these commented out lines. This is the standard code that it comes in. So what this does is it receives an object, and it gives it as a parameter. And the parameter contains certain information that will come from the login. So like the email, for example, it's a standard thing that comes from email. So if I go here, for example, let me just pop back here. Let me log out. I'll just do this again. So I log out here, and I'm not going to dig too much, and I'm not going to put any breakpoints anywhere, but I'm just going to kind of talk about it. So when I click the login button, this grabs the email and checks the email. Okay, I'm always going to get in because I have true and true. Let me just log in there. And I can say, and I have my response status, and then I hand back my response, which is an object. Okay. So, well, more about that later. And then there's also, so that's the mobile app authentication, and it's well defined in the documentation for 17R5. It has that new tag next to it. Oh. What actually happens does the user session end? Yes, I believe that it ends, and it would start a new session.
Right.
So
Can you hear me? No.
it would start a new session to call the authentication again. So if I were to log out and log back in, it would start a new session for me. Does that answer your question? So it's not. Oh, so what actually happens on logout? Does the end user session, does the session in 4D end? The session in 4D, I'm going to ask. Oh, can I hide this? Yeah. Okay. Oh, wait, 1 second. So I can, yeah. So I got a request to hide the screen.
Anyone see the question?
There we go. So what actually happens with I believe that the session will end, and then when the person logs back in, they will have a new session with the new session object that will be created for that session. Does that make sense? You're welcome. Okay. So we can show it later. I can't hear them now. When a user logs out, does something get sent to 4D so we can trap that for something? I'm not sure, Tim. I can find out. So this is what Tim's asking. When a user logs out, does something get sent to 4D so that we can trap that and do something? What I want to say is, yes, you may do whatever you'd like to do, and what you would like to do would need to be extended in Xcode. So currently, I don't believe that there's an on-app logout or on-app closing. Like we can trap. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna keep on going. So thank you guys. I know this is a bit silly, but it's a bit difficult. So there's another. So thank you, Tim, for your question. And keep them coming, you guys. If I can't answer them, I can look back and I can ask the development team what's been done. I haven't looked into it yet, so I'll get back to you on that, Tim. So, and then we have an on mobile app action. So this is just, I'm just going to quickly go over it. So this is another database method that's been added in 17R5 that's documented, and it receives an object and gives back an object, and it receives an object as a parameter and it returns an object as a parameter. That object contains information to know what session called it, so which mobile session called it, or can contain that information. Yeah, it knows which mobile session called it, and it knows which action to do and send back to that mobile session. So as you can see here, what it is this is just this specific example is a list of, is just a bunch of case statements, and it does a specific action based on the case on the action name. So and what I'm going to talk about later is the all in progress and postpone all. So that's just a quick overview of what it looks like. So next I'd like to draw our attention to, oh, and also on mobile app authentication. Oh, is this task you're? Yes, Guy Algott's asking, is this task database you are using available for us to download? Yes, it is, Guy. It is on the 4D tutorials. Is on. It is on the tutorials on the developer.4d.com, and I'll show you where that is a little bit later. Okay, so stay tuned. So, crazy idea. Can you hear people? And I cannot hear anybody. Maybe you can speak through your mic and mute his.
It's for me.
Oh yeah, Jim. Do you want to speak?
I think it's doing okay.
Oh yeah, I think it's okay. Yeah, don't. Thanks, Tim. I feel validated. I feel heard. I feel seen. So what I'm going to do now is, so this is great and all, awesome, but I don't necessarily want to see like everybody else's tasks. I'm a confirmed narcissist, so I'm going to make a filter. I want to be able to filter the tasks to only show my tasks on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a restricted query, email, and this is also in the this is also something that's talked about in the tutorials. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do that. And since I have made a change in the 4D for iOS application, I need to rebuild the application. Okay, this, as I said, I'm going to build it twice, and this is the second time I'm going to do it. This should be it. So assuming everything works. So bear with me. Yes, this error. Cool. So now it's built up again. You see we have our trusty login screen. And assuming I did everything right, I have only my tasks. So I only have 4 tasks, as we saw in here. I know I only have 4 tasks because I did the data. So those are the same ones. So change the brakes in the car. So those are all my tasks. Now I'm only seeing all my tasks, which is great. But, so now I'm going to say, so as we can see, these tasks that belong to other people are postponed, right? The only task in progress is 4DMethod meeting. So what I'm going to do is so we'll just take a note of that to note that that's the only in progress task. So, but now I just had like a really big cup of coffee. I'm super excited. I'm going to get everything done. I'm going to get my Black Friday shopping done. I'm going to change the brakes in my car that I don't have. As we all remember, I don't have a car from Chicago World Tour. Brent was there. He can testify. And I'm going to continue working on this 4DMethod meeting. So I'm going to set all to be into progress. Okay? So great, they're all in progress, right? But remember, the action is based on the table, not what's being shown. So you can see here that all of them are in progress now. So now everybody's got to get going. Jason 93. Jason 93 is has to start read a book once a month. whatever. They're not my tasks. I'm not going to judge. But he probably shouldn't have to start that because I tell him to, right? So what I'm going to do is what I need to do is I need to be able to tell 4D to only update my tasks with my email. So how do I do that? Well, I capture my email at the beginning on my on mobile app authentication. I'm going to capture that. I'm going to store that into a session object that's shared between 4D and this specific instance of the client. I'm going to stock it in there, and I will then only update. Tasks that correspond to my email address. So how do I do that? Well, let me show you. And Ed, as Ed says, world's on a treadmill. How can you live in California without a car? I live in San Francisco, so I have a bicycle, and it's very. I don't live in a hilly part of San Francisco either, so that's wouldn't want to live on a big hill, but that's how we do it. And I take the train to work, so green company. So what I'm going to do is first off, in the so where do I capture? So I'm able to capture this request email. I know that it comes in through here because I'm checking it. Maybe, not really, but it's being checked. And I've already typed out the code. Oh, Tim, got me. Can't afford a car, huh? Yeah, rent is high. You're not wrong, Tim. You're not wrong, but why do you got to bring that up, man? So in this, so what I've got here is I'm capturing I'm adding into a new object, into my response object, which is going to be the object that's shared automatically. That's how it works. It's not really in the documentation right now, so this is why I'm showing you guys a little bit more about it right now. So in response, I'm going to create a new object, a new sub object called a new object that contains one entry, one property, and that's the email, which is going to contain the request.email, which will be my email. Okay, next. So that's great. I've captured that, and now that's going to be something that's shared. But so now whenever an action comes back and forth between the application and 4D, I will then be able to then query only on, or update only on those. So I'm going to pop into my mobile app action, and I'm going to change two, because there are two actions I'd like to change: the postpone all and the set all in progress. I'm going to change those here so those are all in progress and postpone all. So what this does is, so when the request is action is to be all in progress, if we just read through the code really quickly. So if true, I create an object that says what the data class is, so it's task. And I set the status to be 2 because that is the long int of that is not what I want to do. That's the long int version of in progress. And then I open up, and then I call this method to. So what I've always been doing is definition. Is what this does is it updates all of the tasks without anything. So what I want to do is I want to be able to add something else in the object. So I've already written the code here. So it's going to be like this. So I'm going to add my request.userinfo.email. So my input, so my request is my input parameter. Userinfo.email, like what we talked, like where I captured it from the on-app authentication. And then I'm going to use that user info email I'm going to use that in this open close all tasks. So that's here. So what this does is going to run for each based on every single where email is going to be my email. So where the input parameters email is my email. So it's my email. So this is using the placeholder command you've seen here. You've probably seen that from the blog. It's really good, and this is a really good use of that command. So if you're not reading the blog, read this blog post. Question.
So all user info from
I got it. 1 second. So all the user info form authentication gets delivered in every action request. So 4DMethod is asking, so all user info from authentication gets delivered at every request. No, and Tim says, no, he stored it as the authentication in the session object. That's correct, Tim. There's some information that gets shared. All of it, I'm not sure, but I did need to say to store it between the session objects. So I'm saying what I need to do. And in the documentation, it's explained. If you have any questions, let me know, or we'll talk about it in the NUG, and then we'll give Ed something to talk about next month. Cool. Is that good? I can't. Yes. Thank you. Yes, that's good. And I'm not meaning to be flippant either, guys. So, but that's a good question. Thank you. It's totally appropriate. So that was the postpone all, and I'm going to want to set all into progress. So I'm going to do the same thing for all into progress. So as you see here, nothing up my sleeve. I'm going to do the same thing. Oh, I should have done this. I think I wrote the wrong one. So what we've got here is we have the two. So my postpone all, I'm going to set the status of 4 with my email being the filter. And I'm going to set, and then the in progress all, I'm going to set that email to be there. So this is pretty interesting. So now I am going to, so now I've got the, so now I've made some changes in 4D side. I haven't made changes in the iPhone application. So I can just log out and log back in again to create a new session. I should see my information. But now, bear with me. Sorry about that, guys. I want to get back to my application because I kind of want to close this. So now I'm actually going to take a nap right now. So, or whatever, just get lunch. And I'm going to set all these to be postponed. Now you remember everything had everything was in progress before. Now, assuming I did everything right, only my things should be postponed and everybody else is working, which I like. So all of that is postponed and everybody else is in progress. So it seemed to have worked. I mean, it worked. It worked, guys. So what I've done now is based on, so I've been able to define to capture the email in the authentication and have it shared between two different, excuse me, what's it called? Between the application and the mobile application and 4D. So and then I also update it to only update that entity selection that I have there. So you see it's in the middle. So that's how it can be done. And I can make this demo available to anybody that would like to have it later. I'm not sure how we do that. So, oh, Tim is asking a question. So the on mobile app action method is where all the actions get sent where and decide to do based on the 4D app as action. Okay, sorry. So the on mobile app action method is where all the actions get sent and where we decide to do what to do based on the iPhone app sent to 4D as the action. Create records, update records, etc. It all happens in mobile app action. That is correct. Yes, I think of it as the dispatcher, where it dispatches and so it receives the action, and it's a central location, and then it dispatches it out. So it's just one long case statement that figures out what it needs to do based on the action's name and does what it needs to do. So adding new actions, does one need to create a custom template to add the new actions? No, they do not. So that's a really good question. So thank you, Tim. That's a good question. This is also good. So this is Brent also. Also a good question. All good questions. So no, they get added where the template says they need to be added. So it's pretty slick. I actually don't understand a lot of Xcode, the Xcode storyboard stuff. So this is actually great. It just kind of adds it where it needs to be added. It put the ellipsis up there by itself. I didn't say to do anything. As you can see, if you add the actions yourself, you'll see where they get added, where they get input. This so this is these are built-in actions. This stuff is all there. What the differences are in the templates would be, I think it's this one that's different. So this is a little bit different in the template. So you can dig in. So this is a template. This is a non-standard template. Let me just say it like that. So grab the standard templates and throw in actions to see where they go. And normally they're in a pretty good spot because the designer is a designer and he makes really good templates, and he's done all of the templates for download in the tutorials, and the tutorials and on the blog. And I'll show you guys that a little bit later. So thank you. Oh, do we have one more from Tim? Everything that the iPhone app sends to 4D goes on either on mobile app authentication or on mobile app action methods. Everything from the iPhone goes to these database methods. Is it that simple? Unfortunately, yeah. Sorry. I mean, it seems to be that simple. I mean, how does the template know what action are to choose from? I will discuss the refresh. So first, Brent asked, how does the template know where the actions come from? So from what I've understood, it knows. So if I pop open the 4D for iOS myself, I go to the section, and then I'll get to you, Tim, right after that. It knows based on the scope. So if it's a table thing, it'll be based on. It'll look like it's a table thing, so it'll be up in this ellipsis. This is what I've seen. I mean, these are my. This is not. These are what I've seen. So these are based on my experimentation, what I've seen. But I haven't asked the specific question because I didn't really want to know the answer. But it's a good question, and it's done based on from what I've seen, it's done based on the scope. If it's a table thing, it'll be up here because it'll be on everything. And if it's a single action, if it's a single entity, your current entity, it'll be done here. And I will discuss the refresh button, Tim. So I hope that answers the question. And I think it just requires a lot of playing around with to see how it's working, and if it's working for you. If it's not, I would suggest updating the template by SVG, and then that'll update then your storyboard. So now my 4D method meeting is, well, this part of it is done. So, okay, I will discuss the record locking. So, so I'll just actually, Tim and Brent, I will do both of yours. I'll do a twofer. So we'll discuss the refresh of the session and the record locking. So right now I have the record locked, correct? I should not be able to update it if I have a pessimistic locking strategy. So if I go to update, say I postpone it, it says it's already locked up there. So it prevents me with an error. Then if I click off of it, I don't know what it's postponed now. Yeah, I postponed it. So that's what it did. So it lets you know when the record is locked, and you may do whatever you need to do with it. But by default, if the record is open and if the mobile application is currently connected to the server or currently has an internet connection, a pathway to the server via internet, and the action and the record is currently opened by another client or user, then the application cannot update it as it stands. You need to do something else. You need to have optimistic locking or change the way in which you lock it. So that's, and then so that's kind of how it's working. It's done for data coherency, data cohesion. Coherency. Maybe that's a word. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this guy to complete. So as you can see here, I've updated this on my standalone application, but it didn't update there automatically. So that requires a refresh. Oh, I didn't save it either. One second. Let me see if that's right. Oh, it's still there. Okay, so sorry, it wasn't actually completed. So there, it should be completed. So when I refresh the application, only on refresh, only when I ask the client, the mobile application to get more data from the database, from the server to refresh its data, did it grab the appropriate data? Does that answer the question, Tim, about the refresh data of the session? And Brent, I guess, in turn. Yes, the refresh will use the filters. I'm only showing the data. I'm only showing the data of my I don't know what that means. I'm only showing my data, so it'll for sure use the filters, yes. Because my application is only going to refresh data, or should only be showing displaying data that is that I need to see. And yeah, you have either the pull down, like Twitter one, or I think you have, no, you don't even have it anymore. So yeah, you have that one. That's your refresh. So yes, it uses the filters. It uses your restricted query. Yes, pretty slick. Add a context to the filter. I'm not sure what that means. And I wish you could explain. So the question is there a plan to be able to add a context to the filter? Only to sync certain fields. I think that is something that you may, that I don't know. But you feel free to always open up Xcode and do it yourself if it's not there. This is 4D for iOS is not a fait accompli. It's not a it's not a one size fits all. It's a good starting ground, a good springboard to get your application up and running, and to show a demo or to extend your business application. Also, will we get the ability to use objects? Again, I'm not sure. I need to get back to you. If any of these questions, again, please get back to me if I'm unable to answer that question. The question is also, will we be able to use object fields? Cannot currently. Oh, and I think so. I'm not sure. I can show you things that are happening right now, but I can't speak for everything. So if you do have a question and a specific use case, feel free to shoot me an email specifically with it, and then we can discuss it to try and get it prioritized in your application. This is an ongoing preview. This is an ongoing component that's in preview mode right now. So, and I'm all ears to my ears are open to hear any questions about it. Okay, so Tim, And refresh uses filters too. Very good. The refresh uses those hidden fields in 4D to tables to know what has been changed and what needs to be refreshed. Again, I'm not sure. At one point, the application was pulling everything every single time over. Now I believe it's incremental changes. Or if it's not, then it will be at some point. So, and then Tim also asked, when you set up the data definition for the app, you decide which fields you send to the iPhone app. Yes, you do. You do decide which fields get sent to the app, and that's here in the structure. This one is a little bit simple because you only have one table. You can have as many tables as you want, and you can have as many tables and fields as you want. But know that however many tables you have, you're going to have as many little widgets there at the bottom. Thank you, Tim. I'm glad it's all making sense to you so far. I like that. And then Brent also asked before I compliment. Also, well, it might be good to show the publishing of the fields. Publishing, is this what you mean by the publishing of the fields? Great, cool, thank you. So these are the published fields that are there. So these are the fields that are published from 4D to 4D for iOS. This is a very simple database, but you can have as many. I've had a ton of data. That's why we have. I've had a ton of tables here and a ton of fields there, and that's why we have this search thing up here. If you need to search your database, it made my life a lot easier. Push notifications. Push notifications would need to be done on the top. I'm not sure what's needed to be done right now. If you need it, then we can talk about it. Again, send me a use case, and we'll try to get it prioritized if it makes sense. Tim has 207 questions. All right, good. I think I do too. So Rudy is asking, hey Rudy, what happens when there's no connection between? Ooh, that's a good question. Let's do it. What happens? What do you want to happen, Rudy? I'm kidding. I know you, Rudy. Nice seeing you in Seattle. Your son. Hope you're all well. So I'm gonna turn. One second. I'm ridiculous. I'm gonna stop my web server. So what this requires is it only requires a web server. And I've got this here. Could not connect to the server. So my application is still running, but you can't do any actions because the actions require connection to the web server. But I'm still able to look at my tasks. So what happens? You can't update, which makes sense. It's a static. You have a static. You have a subset of your data on your phone with a small little 4D database. You cannot log in with no connection. So what happens if you try to log in? Okay, so you're unable to log in without a connection because you need to be able, and that makes sense, right? You need to be able to authenticate your user. So, and we are calling the 4D server to do that on the on-app authentication method. So, cool. I think that answers Rudy and Brent's question. Tim Neville's, back to you. No deferred update. Is it updated now or nothing? Oh, that's a comment. Cool. Thank you. That's not one of those 207. So that is, if there are no more questions, I know actually a bad question. So that's what I've got for the actions part, the actions templates, that stuff. What I'm gonna, if you think about it, how often does your iPhone not have internet? So we can deal with that. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're not in Kansas anymore. Well, maybe Tim is, but I'm just kidding. Sorry, that's some Kansas bashing. That's really uncalled for. Actually, I don't even know what that means. So that is what I have for the. Oh, is there documentation? We have great internet, Kansas. I'm sure you do, Tim. I'd love to come see it sometime. So that's the demo. So is there any documentation on how to create custom SVG templates? Yes, there is. And I'll pop into that later. So like, show me what. Yes, there is. It's on the tutorial. So but first, so hope you can all see this. I can't see you anymore, but I put some really cool things in the next one. So I can't see your current questions. Maybe Jim, if you see them, if they're asking me any questions. But I'm gonna talk a little bit about what's coming up next, because that's also interesting. I think we've seen a lot that's been happening the last 2 months, and what's coming up next? Well, in the world tour I showed, it's really cool. In the world tour I showed one-to-n relations. Next, in the next 1 or 2 verses, we'll have in the near future we're going to have n-to-1 relations. So one-to-many relations. So we'll have both one-to-many and many-to-one relations being able to be used in the database. And because it's 4th of July, we have CRUD. We're going to have CRUD. So we're going to have, it's a very anticlimactic CRUD, but we're going to have creation, reading, updating, and deletion. And I have a quick demo to show you guys right now. That's the big announcement. So that's the big announcement. So come on, guys.
Big announcement.
Thank you. And this is just for all of you guys that are here. And thank you guys for participating and putting up with my being unable to going deaf. This is how Beethoven felt. Maybe. So as a special sneak peek to my favorite 4D user group. So let me pop that open right now. So while we go there, or before we go there, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we had. What we had, and this is once again another database using the task demo database, and this is the main version of 4D. So this is the main development branch of 4D. So this is the latest and greatest. Not sure which version this will be in, but I have it. And I was able to download it from the development team. So as we see here, we have our task manager. So it's the same. That's great. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop open my 4D for iOS mobile project. And so I'm going to have actions here. So these actions, so this changed a little bit since you've seen it just now. And what we have is now something called, so let's just take a step back before we go too far. What we were able to do is we're able to do a lot of ways of reading data from our database and displaying in a native iPhone application. We've been able to update using actions. Well, this is the rest of it. But what we were really missing was finishing updating, adding deletion, or adding the ability to delete, and adding the ability to create. So this is a really simple demo database that shows that add tasks, edit tasks, delete tasks. So this is the completion of the CRUD of what you need to have like a fully RESTful application. Oh. So if you modify data on your phone, will it update later? That all depends on what you need to do, Rudy. Everybody has a different use case, and you may do whatever you need to do on your side. It all depends. Imagine if you have a race condition, you have the boss, you have a bunch of different. You can imagine a situation where one person updates something and another person updates something, and you can have a conflict. So how do you mitigate those conflicts? That all needs to be done based on your business logic. So you may. Okay, so Tim, we know about log in, log out, but what happens if you log in, use the app for 5 minutes? Is your connection to contacts maintained? Is your license remain consumed so that the others cannot access this? There must be some kind of timeout value to release the context of the license. So this is a question about licenses. So we're going to dig into the frequently asked questions in a little bit on the tutorials to talk about license, where we talk a little bit more about licenses. That specific use case, I've been focusing more on the technology side, and as this is a preview, I haven't been able to get all those questions answered. So that's a very good question, and I totally understand where you're going, and I love the interest, but we're focusing on the I'm focusing on the technology right now, and we can speak with Jim about a specific use case or a specific I don't know what we need to do to get this. So I just don't know. But we don't know at this time. At this time, no. So thanks, Tim. But no, appreciate it. So, I lied to you. Sorry, guys. I'm going to build this one. So this is the third building. So this is the third silence. Thank you, Rudy. It was really great to see you too and hang out for a little bit in Seattle. I hope you had a good rest of your trip. It's cool. Nice meeting you. And I appreciate all these questions, you guys. It's difficult when no questions get asked. So, and this is a demo. This is a demo that I'm not going to be able to share with you guys because it's not quite done. The technology isn't there, and anyways, you can't use it. So why would you need it? So, so this is another template that you can have. Let's do that. This is another template that you can have. It's a task database still, so get change brakes in car. And as you can see here, it looks a bit the same, but you've got a little bit different things. You have edit, remove, or send comment. Send comment's pretty interesting because you can send an email. You have a comment and send an email. You can refresh like always. You can add a new one. And this is just to show, this is just a big announcement to show you guys what we've been working on. And you can also update and delete. Remove it, boom, gone. I don't like you. I have a car. Why don't I change my brakes? It's probably changing my brakes on my bike though. Some big hills in San Francisco. And you can edit them. You can edit things. So that's pretty cool. So that's the rest of CRUD. Opposite of CRUD. So that's it for the demos, you guys. I hope you guys stay tuned. Continue watching the blog for this. I don't know. I'm not at liberty to say. So Tim is asking if this is going to come in 17R6. I'm not at liberty to say. I don't know. So I don't know. Wait for it. It should come out. It's coming out soon. As you can see, I have it in my main development branch. But as you know, at 4D, we like to deliver code and applications and solutions that are fully tested. And this is a massive change, and it requires a lot of testing to make sure it's right. So keep on watching out for it, and it'll be in an R release soon. So, but I'm glad. I love the continued optimism. I love it. So, and then Tim. Yeah, so Tim says that this is the critical thing to add to 44 iOS, and it's what everybody was waiting for. No CRUD, no app, really. Yeah, I totally agree with you, and that's why I wanted to show you guys. And really, I thought that this was really a good enough thing to warrant big announcement, underscore, bold, and underlined. So it's really, I agree. So, and I'm really excited for it to come here, and it'll come into one of the R releases shortly. Brent asks, Do mobile app clients use a new kind of license? Okay, so that's a really good question. So no, so answer is no. A little bit better answer is okay. So let me just. So this is gonna segue into my talk about the documentation and where to go to find the questions. It's great that you're asking me the questions, but I'm not always here. So the place to answer. So the place to keep up to date is on the 4D side. The documentation. It's great. It's just as great as all the other 4D documentation is, and it'll help you. It'll give you a wealth of knowledge on the 4D side. The blog give you a wealth of knowledge on the feature side. If you don't read it, continue reading it, or start reading it. Yeah, if you don't read it, start reading it. If you read it, continue reading it. That's what I say. KB knowledge base, of course, for when the guys work on their tech notes, they're always really well done, and I'm going to plug them forever. I learned so much from them. And then the tutorials. This is specifically for the 4D for iOS. This is 4D for iOS stuff. So this is development center. So this is in this 4D for iOS preview documentation. This is the documentation specifically about how to use and what all the features are for 4D for iOS. So there's a lot of things that need to be done, and it goes kind of outside the scope of the current documentation. So this was done to do that. So we have the template SVG file. So there was a question about if you can update SVG and how to do that. Yes, there is a lot of tutorials about what you can do with code samples on how to update SVG files. Oh shoot. Second. Let me make sure I've got them here. I don't want to. So there was that. Another question was about the frequently asked question. Okay. So another question was about licenses. Here you'll see a lot of information about licenses. So do I need 4D web server to run 4D for iOS? No. Oh, it's just a 4D server. Sorry, I didn't mean to say this. Connect the 4D web server, but so you don't need that. Is there test evaluation license? Okay, you've got that. So if you're a partner, if you're already developer pro, it's included. Okay, yeah, so this goes over the information, and it's just really basic information on the frequently asked questions.
This will answer Brent's question.
Oh, this will answer Brent. Yeah, sorry, I was getting there. What do I need to deploy? So there are no additional licenses needed for your 4D. Clients can connect Mac, Windows, PC as long as, okay. So yeah, it's not a, so this answers your question, Brent. And this is where I would go. The frequently asked questions, when you do have a question about the license, there aren't that many questions here. So if they're not answered here, reach out to your account rep, myself, anyone, and we'll get you the answer right away. Okay? I hope that answers that question. There was some talk. So there was, I believe it was Guy. He asked about where I would download, where he would be able to, or where one would be able to download the sample database. So it would be in Actions and Templates, and it would be down here. So sorry about that. Don't mean to scroll too fast. Don't get sick. But here it's a final project, and you can just download the final project. Super easy, lickety split. And that's the final project of everything that you've gone through here in the building of the application. So this shows a lot of the information. There was that. Were there any other questions? Sorry about that if I forgot you. It's not you, it's me. That's actually the first time I've said that to someone and actually believed it. Oh, and there's something that's really cool that I wanted to show you, guys, is the templates and formatters. So formatters. So a lot of people asked, So this is something I recently learned about from Kisuke on my monthly call with Kisuke, with all the other technical account managers. I believe it was him. He was, or it might not have been him, but it doesn't matter. So he was the person that talked about the formatters. And these are formatters. These are things that allow a lot of people asked in the World Tour how you could have a number underlined to call directly. I had no idea. Well, I guess that was always here. You have a phone number where you click on so you have a Swift formatter to do that. So here we're giving you a lot of nice bricks to be able to make sure that all of the phone numbers that you're displaying in your application, if you want to, when you click that, it calls someone. It uses your iPhone application to call someone, or a URL that opens up Open Safari, or a mail that opens up an email, or an into email. So there are some different types of some formatters that are there. There are also some really cool list form templates that you have. So you saw that one in the second demo. You saw this one in the first demo. You've got this interesting looking one, and you have one that looks really cool. It's called Map List, and what this does is it integrates automatically. So this is for, let's say, if you want to sell something, it looks like it's a housing application, a finding a house application. So like a Zillow or something, or a Redfin, and it grabs your location and displays the map to, and it moves around a bunch. It displays a map to, or the map and the path to that other address. So just some really cool ideas that you can take. We're giving you the source code, the SVG code, the source code to be able to play with it. So I think we can make some really cool applications with these things and take them, own them, use them. So that is about all I've got. Let me go to my last page. So I'm going to plug once again. So thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. I appreciate your questions. Excuse the technical difficulties, but made it, and hopefully you all. I didn't just talk to myself.
I heard it.
So
Mute yourself.
can I mute? Yeah, sure. 1 second. I'm going to talk about the 64-bit.
Oh, go ahead.
So if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask them. I want to plug right now the 64-bit audit. So it is the questionnaire. It's a 5-minute questionnaire. If you do have a 32-bit application, please, or you work with someone or you know someone that has 32-bit application that doesn't know how to get to 64-bit. With Catalina coming out in a couple months, it's gonna be a 64. It is a 64-bit only OS, and you need to be able to run on it. And if you can't run on it on 64-bit, then you're going to be kind of in trouble. Or you can be in trouble. So for free 64-bit assessment, contact me or your account manager. It'd be great. So I'm gonna go on mute for 1 second, and Jim will come back to you. Jim? Do you want to be up here or there?
Here.
Right here. That's me. That's my note.
Can you hear us there,
Yes.
Brent?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Oh, hey guys.
Hey. Yeah, that was my crazy idea. But,
Yeah, I finally I did it now. I didn't want to interrupt Will during his presentation, but that was a good idea, Brent. Thank you.
well,
So we can hear you now.
yeah, at least we made it through the presentation, and sometimes it's better to not have people interrupting you while you're talking, right?
Yeah, unless those people are Tim.
Right, we make exceptions for Tim. Well, thanks, Will, for the presentation again. That there's even though there's still some unanswered questions about 40 for iOS, it's clear to see that there's a lot of progress being made.
Yeah.
Tim, that's a good question there at the end.
Yeah, and Tim does have a question there at the end. So yeah, no, it's awesome to present it. It's really cool to show everybody what's been happening behind the scenes a little bit sometimes, give a sneak peek. So that's just for you guys. No one else has seen this stuff except internally. So it's really cool. I'm really happy to share it with you guys. And Tim had a question about iPad apps. So you're not the first person to ask me this week about that. So the question is, it does run on iPad apps, but you may need to tweak the template to get it to look better on an iPad app from an iPhone app. So there are different actions and things like that that need to be done.
Hey, Tim, I don't know if you caught that answer, but it will run on an iPad, but yeah. But you need to tweak the what do you call it, the storyboard in Xcode in order for it to basically be responsive in the correct manner on an iPad?
No, it'll work. It'll work. It just may look a little bit weird, so you would need to tweak the template in the SVG. I guess that's what we're doing on our side. It just needs a little bit of massaging.
Now, the SVG, that's mostly used for the interface in the 4D for iOS in 4D actually, right?
Good question. So SVG. So what SVG? So in the forms. So you see this form. Oh, so you actually can't see.
You can see.
Yeah, you can see this. So you can see this form right here, or this list form.
Mm-hmm.
This is defined in SVG. In 4D for iOS, what it does is it ingests that SVG. So this is defined from an SVG file. This SVG file is called tasks collection, like these other list form files. Okay. These are the standard ones, and this is your special one for this one. So let's say you have. So if you pop open in 4D, and this is in the tutorial. So when you edit this file, this changes here. This is an SVG renderer, and when you build the application, what it's doing is it's translating your SVG. It's translating your SVG into a storyboard on the back end. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I found, I went through all the tutorials, obviously, and the moment they came out, but especially in preparation for this. And the one part that I found particularly difficult was working. If you were to actually create, go in and edit the SVG, the raw SVG, or much less create it from scratch.
Yeah.
Does 4D plan to, I mean, obviously there's SVG components and whatnot for 4D, and we have, this standard sort of templates and objects for 4D for iOS. Will there be an ability at some point in time to create these custom templates directly within 4D for iOS without having to roll your own SVG XML files?
You mean like a WYSIWYG SVG editor?
A WYSIWYG editor where you don't even have to care about the SVG aspect of it.
I wouldn't say right now. I don't know of one that exists anyways in the world. But me not knowing something doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. I can't say yes or no. I don't think that is a major priority. I think but if it's a good question, let me take it down. That's the team.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. So everybody's favorite topic, of course, licensing. So the 4D client is connection-based. The iOS license is device-based. Would that be correct?
Device-based client bit. Yes, but you share the license. A 4D client license can be used for using 4D for iOS. They share the license.
Okay, so for example, I can, and as I've told my clients with 4D client, they can install it on every computer in their organization. Only the people who connect to the server is limited by that license. But what I'm reading on the website says that if I have 4 iOS devices and I have 4 licenses on my server, that's all I can install.
Correct.
So what happens is like when I want to remove a device? So
Right.
I've installed it on a client's iPhone. They've left, they're gone, they're away, and now I want to reuse that license, but their device is no longer available. Is that controlled from the server, or how is that managed?
Yeah, good question, and I don't have an answer for that. You're talking more about the technology of how the licensing works.
Yeah, because in looking on the website under the fact, it says that if I have the example on the website, if I have total of 4 clients on the server, it says I can use up to 4 mobile devices, but
Right.
then the note above that says I'm not allowed to install on more devices than the total amount of 4D server licenses.
Correct. Yeah, that's a good question. I see what you're saying when you want to remove somebody, but
Right.
yeah, I don't
So
know.
I can't install the app I can't tell the client you can install it on all your iPhones, because it sounds like it's not going to work like a 4D client license. It's going to be a different scheme.
Right. So it's not concurrent usage, it's actually installed it.
Installed, exactly.
And so if the same user couldn't have it on their iPhone and their iPad.
That's another good point. Exactly. I've got 3 devices. I can't, that's essentially going to be 3 licenses.
It's a guy.
Yeah, it's Guy.
Hey, Guy. It's Al here.
Hey, Ad.
That's true. Again, this is something that we're going to have to find out. As far as I understand, the licenses, because we are right now sharing the same functionality as 4D Client, it's per connection. You can have the application installed in multiple devices, but at the time that a connection is made, it will consume 1 license.
Yep.
So there's an option to connect and disconnect. I believe I'm not
We don't know
so
that.
familiar with this. This is something that I have to find out. We have to find out. But as far as I understand, it's not per installed device. It's
Okay.
per connection.
Okay. So to me, the wording on the website is confusing in that regard.
Well, we'll find out. And,
Yeah, we'll
probably
find
have
out
some
for sure.
clarification.
Yeah. Because I'm all for concurrent server licenses. That's the way 4D clients always operated, and that's how I've worked with my clients. So if the iOS app is going to do that the same way, then I'm 100% for that. But obviously, if it's an install license, that becomes a little bit more tricky, especially when it comes to removing. How do you remove those and things like that, and then multiple devices, all that kind of stuff. So I'd love to hear a clarification on that, because it sounds, the website wording seems muddy.
That's a good point.
Okay.
But the main point is, if you have 10 people in your office, you have 10 client connections,
It's concurrent, yeah.
they can use it. One of them can use it in the office. That's 9, and 1
Right.
on the phone. That's the 10th.
Right.
That's the main
Right.
point. But you're asking about the technical side of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a client who's got a 30 user server, but they've got 100 employees. Obviously, with the way the wording it sounds like all the employees can't have it on their iPhone, because their server license is limited to 30.
Correct. You would have, if you have 30 people using it internally, but you want 100 to use it total on the phone.
Or all those 100 people have an iPhone and an iPad. Now you've essentially cut it in half, because they have to choose a device.
Yeah. Right. But if you have a client license, you can use that client license on the iPhone, on the iPad app, whatever. It's for that same person anyway. But so let's get you some information about that.
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, good question, Guy, though.
And I think it's Tim. So Tim asked a question. So congratulations, Tim, on getting that paid. First iPad app. If you need help on that, we can help you out. If you have any questions, let me know on how we can help you get your application out there. So I'm always here to help you make money. Well, not just you, Tim, but everybody. So, and get your applications out there. So awesome.
Okay. Well, I think that's a great bunch of information for us to digest, and thanks for giving us an advanced look at CRUD and all the fabulous new functionality coming down the pipe, along with one to N and N to 1, and the actions, lights, camera, actions.
Yeah.
So John,
Very exciting.
I'm reading John John's question there. So obviously, if you have a need for volume licensing of a 4D for iOS app that expands beyond what you're using in your office or whatever, our sales team will work with you for sure. Okay. That answer your question, John? Hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, I think as far as the licensing goes, we in the community are very interested in 4D for iOS. Really, and have high hopes for the licensing not being too restrictive to be able to roll it out in our environments. Yeah, I mean, I know that the 4D mobile licenses worked. They weren't exactly 4D client licenses, and so it seems like that distinction. There won't be that distinction this time around. However,
yeah,
you know, just making sure that the licensing financially works out to be able to introduce this into current installs. So we definitely have high hopes in that regard.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's not going to work the way the 4D mobile clients work. So.
And just for one thing, just realize that right now we're still in the preview stage. It means that you know, all the licensings that we are offering right now, you know, it could potentially be kind of derived from what we have now into something that will work best for everyone.
Yeah.
But again, at the moment, this is what we have, so that most of our customer who's interested in trying the product can jump on it without having to deal with additional license.
Right.
So in the future, once we finalize everything and it becomes the final version that we are releasing, it could potentially have a new scheme of licensing that will work with most people or everybody.
Yeah, I see your comment, Tim. No, we do not want to kill the deal with weird licensing scheme. Our goal is to get people to use 4D for iOS. So
yeah, well, it's very exciting to see it in development, and as the new features get released, and I know that that's always been a particular ask of all of our clients in the 4D world to be able to expose the great functionality that we have within our 4D applications into mobile environments one way or another. And there's always been different ways of doing it, and this is another tool in our toolbox. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So okay. Well, thanks a lot, and thanks, Will. Sorry, everyone, for the technical complications. Get what you pay for with accounts here, and at least we're able to still use them. We'll see how we do this at this time next year. May not have Hangouts, so we'll mention about our schedule. The schedule for 4DMethod can be found at 4dmethod.com/schedule. We have 2 more meeting dates this year planned, September 4th and November 6th. I don't have a presenter scheduled for either one, so now's your big opportunity to jump on those dates and get in here and show us what you're working on in one of these next meetings. So please reach out to 4DMethod, 4dmethod@gmail.com, and let us know if you want to get on the schedule. Yeah, any other questions? I think we've had a lot of questions already. Thanks again to everyone at 4D and everyone who joined the Hangout with all the great, exciting questions and whatnot. Again, feedback is always appreciated for these meetings. We do what we can on a shoestring here. You can also, in addition to your joining the meetings and being part of the community, you can support 4DMethod on Patreon at patreon.com/4DMethod. So anyways, thanks so much. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your joining, and thank you, everyone at 4D. We'll see you next time.
Thank you,
thanks,
Ben.
guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.